Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné, our top stories. 1 week to go before South Africa heads to the polls. We'll go to Cape Town, where our correspondent will give us the country's mood before the general election. Dumping black migrants in the middle of the desert without food and water. A report accuses Tunisia, Mauritania and Morocco of serious rights abuses and says it's all thanks to EU's money. VivaTech opens its doors in Paris, Europe's biggest tech event, an opportunity for African startups to present their innovative solutions to the continent's challenges. 1 week from now, May 29, nearly 28 million South Africans registered voters have the chance to elect representatives to the national and provincial parliaments. We're going to speak to Anne Wenzel. She's our correspondent in Cape Town, and she's going to give us the moods on the ground. Anne, thank you for joining us. First, can you please remind us what is at stake for South Africa for these elections?
So for the ordinary South African voter, they're hoping for change, they're hoping for something new, and a change that they can feel in their daily lives. So a lot of this is with unhappiness with the ANC. Some of the old guard are still hopeful for the ANC, but tying that in, there's a lot at stake for the ANC as well, who for the first time face some really tough challenges with the MK strongly coming up and definitely going to draw some votes away from them. And then, of course, the DA is fighting really hard to hang on as well. The only other party that has managed to get a province away of the nine provinces from the ANC, but they're being faced with a small challenge, maybe not so small, come the vote by the PA, the Patriotic Alliance, who are starting to show very strongly in the Western Cape and trying to draw national votes.
So, Anne, one who's going to miss the action is obviously Jacob Zuma, the ex-president, and he has been definitely barred from running. So what has been the reaction?
So while he will not be able to be nominated for the National Assembly, he's still going to be very likely very active in the party, in the MK. The MK themselves have said they're disappointed by the ruling, but they're law-abiding and they still have Zuma. They are still the party of Zuma. And so they still have all that pulling power. And Zuma himself, of course, one of his main aims is to destabilize the ANC, and he's doing that very well, because the chunk of votes that they're going to pull away is significant. The ANC can't really afford to lose between 8 and 10% of votes nationally. And then there's talk people are talking amongst themselves and saying, look, what if they join forces with the PA or the EFF? So it's all up in the air, but the MK and the former President Jacob Zuma himself are still strong forces.
So, as I said, the votes will be happening on the 29th, but already South Africans living overseas have already cast their votes. So what can you tell us about it?
So what we do know is that we have a record-breaking number of registered voters, some 70,000+, and of that number, 24,000 registered in Greater London. And the IEC itself is saying it is not about to divulge or announce any of those results quite yet, and they want to possibly bring out some of those results closer to the 29th. But some reports are saying that in the UK specifically, at least 54% of the voters registered voted, so that it would be almost 15,000 people. Keeping in mind that in 2019, the total number of globally registered voters on foreign soil was only something like 19,000. So that's already big numbers. And in the US, they also had to extend voting hours because voters really turned out. So that also shows some of the mood on the ground. People want change and they are motivated to get up and try and make that change happen.
Anne Wenzel, live from Cape Town. Thank you very much. We'll be following, obviously, the story on the elections on May 29. Now, the report sent shockwaves throughout the European Union after a report said that Tunisia, Morocco and Mauritania were dumping migrants in a desert using the bloc's funds. The investigation by Lighthouse Reports says that every year tens of thousands of people are arrested based on their skin color and dumped in a desert without water or food. The European Union admitted on Tuesday to a difficult situation. Sam Bradpiece has the story.
This report is a damning indictment of the so-called migration management agreements signed between the European Union and these North African countries. It alleges European knowledge and funding of operations where tens of thousands of African migrants have been rounded up in the streets and then dumped in the Sahara Desert, often with deadly consequences. The European Union has delivered hundreds of millions of euros to these countries to help stem migration. Much of the money was spent on funding and training security forces involved in the abduction and dumping of migrants. There are even allegations that Spanish security forces have been directly involved. But the main implication here is that the EU has effectively outsourced or externalized human rights abuses to these North African countries, Mauritania, Tunisia and Morocco, in a bid to keep its hands clean. The European Commission has denied these allegations, insisting that all operations it supports in North Africa are aimed at managing migration and fighting back against human traffickers. It says that all EU contracts come with human rights conditions attached.
So you heard it, the report also includes Tunisia, where the government's policy towards migrants is drawing international concern, including from the UN. More than 100 migrants were detained in different cities last week for illegally crossing the borders. And Tunisian authorities say they have sent more than 21,000 migrants back to the borders since the beginning of 2024. Lilia Bless and Hamdi Tlili report.
Tunisian authorities recently forcibly evacuated migrants who had been camping out for months in front of the IOM headquarters, the UN Agency for Migration. But days later, some have come back to demand a voluntary return to their home countries, like Rashid from Central Africa. After he was deported to the Algerian border, he walked back to the capital more than 100 kilometers away. He requested anonymity to speak.
My experience in Tunisia is that it works. I can work, I can make money, but I'm fed up. I'm really fed up. The police chase us every day. I've already lost hope. It's better that I go home.
With the security sweeps targeting migrants in recent weeks, many have nowhere to go, like Mohammed, originally from Guinea-Conakry.
I sleep anywhere. I sleep in the street, anywhere I can. Tunisian authorities forbid Tunisians from hosting us or giving us food.
The IOM says it is working to support voluntary returns. In 2023, the organization helped over 2,500 migrants to voluntarily return from Tunisia to their country of origin, an increase of 45% compared to 2022. The migration issue is proving a political challenge, especially in Sfax, in the east of the country. Migrants camping in olive groves for months are no longer welcomed by locals who cheer police operations destroying the camps.
Every night they cut our irrigation pipes. We install them again, and even if the authorities chase them away, they come back.
The camps have been destroyed and rebuilt several times. Mustafa says he wants to stay in peace.
We're here for a single purpose, to cross to Italy. That's all we're here for. We don't bother them.
Currently, many associations that help migrants are in the crosshairs of the justice system, and UN organizations remain unresponsive to this humanitarian situation. Many migrants therefore find themselves left on their own.
Algeria is facing a drug war, with some estimates saying addiction affects millions. Drug use among young people is also on the rise. The story by Sophie Lamotte takes you into the heart of a rehab center like no other. There, recovering addicts use sport, group discussions, and psychology to kick the habit.
Algerians from all walks of life who've fallen into addiction come to the center, fighting drug dependence one punch at a time.
I have been going under treatment here for 2 months. Thank God I found comfort, regained my health and saved money. I'm in great shape now. There's caring people who help you get out of this addiction here. They give you strength and courage.
Since it opened in 2019, this rehab center's welcomed close to 8,000 people suffering from drug addiction. Located in the heart of the Bouchaoui forest in the hills of Algiers, it aims to bring a softer touch to help its visitors kick the habit.
These young people are helpless. That's why we place a strong emphasis on the physical aspect, like sports. Then we focus on the psychological aspect, particularly on the direct relationship between the recovering addict and those in charge of their treatment.
According to a 2010 study, the last one published, some 300,000 Algerians suffer from drug addiction. According to experts, this figure could be much higher. Although it's been recognized as a major public health problem by the authorities in 2017, drug addiction remains taboo in the country.
The drug phenomenon has become an obsession in Algeria. The National Office Against Drugs estimates that there are 3 million drug users in Algeria, 3% of whom are women. It's terrible.
Official estimates show drug consumption has increased by 200% between 2021 and 2022 in Algeria. According to medical professionals, this could be linked to the increased precarity of youths in a country where a third of under-25s are unemployed.
VivaTech 2024 has now begun in Paris. The event gathers world's leading voices in technology with their latest innovation, the opportunity for startups to share ideas, but also to score new funding. Kizito Odhiambo is the CEO and founder of an agri-tech company in Kenya, and we caught up with him at the event.
Here at VivaTech, basically, we want to show that Africa is open for business. We want to show that Africa is ready to accept investment, to be able to grow the communities and to help make sure that Africa can feed itself. To do that, we need partnerships with technology service providers across Europe and the world, and also access to finance and funding opportunities that can be able to help us crack this problem and be able to grow, because it's a global problem that needs global partnerships across the board. We work with agro dealers in Kenya, and we help them to supply inputs to smallholder farmers. So smallholder farmers are able to access all the products that they require for farming, right from soil testing to seed to fertilizer, and ultimately access to output markets through the same agro dealer in the communities that we call agri-hubs. The problem that we are trying to address is actually access to finance for smallholder farmers. Less than 5% of smallholder farmers have access to finance in Africa because they have limited access to transaction histories, or maybe because they do not have any, because of climate change, the risk profile is seen to be too high. So we help these farmers by digitizing their transactions with businesses so they can have it easier to access credit from financial institutions such as banks.
Thank you for watching Eye on Africa. You're watching France 24. Stay tuned for more news.